Greetings, all. This is Max. Hope you enjoyed the music from Flat Earth Man about the moon landing hoax. I don't know how many of you out there believe in that or even care. Um, I wanted to make my own little vid because again my software doesn't want to work, so I'll have to actually purchase something different. I think. Um, what we're going to look at here today is something that it's a valid question from people that are pretty much into the flat Earth thing, and whether or not you could go to the moon. But it's funny. I ran across this article. I was just looking for a picture of the moon, and this is from January, pretty much a year-old article. It says Earth is sending oxygen to the moon. Between 1969 and 1972, 12 astronauts left footprints on the moon. But according to new research, I'd like to know what, our planet has been sending another sign of life to the lunar surface for billions of years. Oxygen. And even though an estimated 4 trillion atoms of oxygen have become embedded in the lunar soil in the last 2.4 billion years, that won't make settling the moon any easier. Now, here's the part that I question here. A small bit of Earth's air leaks into space each day. Okay. Don't worry, it's only about 90 metric tons out of a total of about 5 quadrillion metric tons. Now, here's the kicker. They're telling you that Earth's air is leaking out into space. Now, what we've been told is space is a vacuum. Right. It's a vacuum. It's kind of like one of those things where, like the opposite of a submarine. You know, if you go too deep in a submarine, the pressure overcomes the hull and it crushes the submarine. It's the exact opposite when there is no pressure. It wants to pull everything apart. Now, my question is, they're admitting here that Earth air leaks out into space. Well, of course, because if space is a vacuum, and there's nothing between the Earth's atmosphere and the vacuum of space, how could our atmosphere even exist? Wouldn't there have to be a barrier of some sort that contains the atmosphere from the vacuum of space? Is space actually a vacuum? The reason that I question this, and this was going to be the basis of my little video, it relates more to like the landing on the moon hoax thing that they did. But this is interesting. I saw this article as I was just looking for a picture of the moon. And they actually admit, well, yeah, air leaks out into space. Well, of course it does, because if space is a vacuum, the real question is, how do we have an atmosphere for 2 billion years existing next to a total vacuum? A total vacuum. Let me guess, it's going to be dark matter. It's dark matter that's holding the atmosphere to the planet. Never mind the water or anything else, that nothing gets sucked out into space. You know, gravity did it. Dark matter. Maybe it's white holes and all this other Star Trek nonsense. Anyways, we're going to talk about rockets a little bit. Now, this has more to do with, moon landing stuff, but the reason that they say rockets work in space is because it's like throwing a bowling ball, and they go, for any action, there's a reaction. Let's just say that's the case. 3,000 meters per second is the velocity of the exhaust pushing a rocket. 3,000 meters per second. What does that come out to in kilometers an hour? 10,800 kilometers per hour is the maximum speed. And this here is for the best chemical rockets, the exhaust speed. So this is the best you're going to get. The best. Okay, 10,000 kilometers an hour. What this means is that anything that a rocket pushes, even a rocket pushing itself, it can never exceed 10,800 kilometers an hour. Otherwise, it goes against physics. Equal and opposite. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Equal and opposite, right? So if you've got a rocket exhaust pushing out here, the rocket going this way, over here, can only go 10,800. And you're always going to have loss. It's never 100% because you're pushing something. Okay? So now we're going to take a look at the speed of satellites and our fake International Space Station. Orbiting at 250 miles, and objects orbiting that altitude travel 28,000 kilometers per hour. See, how is that? How are they achieving that? How is that possible? And yeah, why aren't they flying off into space? It's gravity, I guess. Oh yeah, it's gravity. It's gravity. Well, how come gravity can hold that thing up there in an orbit, but it's not affecting anybody down here? And it only seems to do that when they get up into this so-called vacuum. Now, and I'm just going to say, okay, rockets work perfectly, or whatever they're using up there. If the best they got is 10,000 miles, or what is it, 10,800? 10,800 kilometers an hour is as fast as you can go with the rocket. But they're supposedly doing 28,000 kilometers per hour. How does that work exactly? You're tripling your energy? You're tripling your speed? It's impossible. Now, we're going to go to the old moon landing hoax. Speed of the Apollo spacecraft. Apollo program average speed. And here's the other thing. We're going to say, well, they slingshotted around the Earth, and that supposedly gave them this huge boost. Well, they went 39,897, so 40,000 kilometers an hour, which is 4 times the best rocket's exhaust speed of today. Not back in 1969. Okay? Now, we'll talk about this gravity thing and they slingshot. Okay? You know when they achieved this speed? On the way back. Down here. Achieved 40,000 kilometers an hour on May 26th during the return from the moon. This wasn't from the Saturn V rocket that shot them up there. This is from that little dinky command module that they came back in. 4 times the speed of the exhaust gases coming out of the rocket engine. It's not possible. It's not possible. Now, I went to this one first because NASA will claim that, well, of course rockets work in a vacuum. Okay? Because it's that for every action, there's an equal and an opposite reaction. Okay, I'll give you that. Let's pretend they work. You ain't going to get 40,000 kilometers an hour out of a rocket that the gases are only come out at 10,000 kilometers an hour. There's just no way to do it. By action-reaction. Laws of physics. Okay? Now we're going to take a look at this video. It's on someone else's channel here, Shellstoppers. He's got a vacuum chamber that he puts it down, and he this whole video here, rockets in a vacuum. You can look it up and see the whole thing. But anyways, we'll just watch. This is a rocket in just open atmosphere.
Some rockets at normal pressure. Impressive, as I thought they would be. But you know the drill. Let's see what happens in a vacuum. It moved a tiny bit. It kind of did a little bunny hop, but I'd say that was another strike against spaceflight. So let's see what happens when a plug and some glue
is demonstrating what scientists will say is, well, you know, the rockets in space is like if you're throwing a bowling ball and it's pushing you back. So he put a plug in there, which would simulate the same sort of thing.
Added to the rocket, trying to build up a little bit more pressure. And that is strike 3 zillion for space travel.
And there you go. And there's the other big question. There's a lot of videos of whether or not rockets will burn in space. I don't care if they burn in space or not. They're not going anywhere. If it's a complete total vacuum up there, there is nothing for a rocket to push off of. And it's the same thing as if you've got your boat on the trailer and you fire the engine up. The propeller ain't going to push the boat around. It's the exact same thing. There ain't no water. Do we understand this? So, with that, I think I am going to be out of here, but not to the moon.